Welcome, everyone. This is Matthew Brownstein with the Illuminated Mind podcast. I'm here with Donald Smith, or as you go by for your professional name in hypnotherapy now, dray Josiah. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's good to have you here for sure. So we were talking before we started about where we would go. We definitely want to go into the spiritual themes. I know you're a registered nurse, you're a martial artist, you've opened the Dayvin Center for Holistic Health in relationship to hypnotherapy. But let's start with your background. You said that you've been a hypnotist since you were 14, so that's not formal training, right? That was just reading books. But eventually you went through our school. You're relatively, at the time of this recording, recent graduate, but you've seen some clients, so it's great. But yeah, tell us about the background in hypnosis and what led you to this school.
Well, so when I was 14, I just read a hypnosis script. And in the middle of a noisy gym, I took two friends and I managed to place them into a hypnotic trance and bring them back out. And I had never done it before in my life. It just kind of, the words made some sense to me, and I don't know if it was interest and innate talent. Maybe I could just be a boring guy. Who knows? Whatever it was, it brought him down to that state and brought him back out. And it made sense. And it made sense, almost kinesthetically. So, I could kind of feel in myself, like what words made sense, like the change in them. And so after that, really, I wasn't using it for any serious purposes, but I did have some interesting experiences. I had, a person who claimed to be a dragon. I had a family member who got possessed by this spirit that said it was an alien, that said I could use my powers for whatever I wish, but they'd prefer that I use them for the forces of good. And I knew that deeper things could be done, but frankly, especially for the hypnotist out there, what I really learned was I learned hypnotic induction, and then I learned hypnotic programming. And that's kind of as far as I got. There are other modalities out there. And so I found by the time, I was getting out of high school, I'm like, I'm really not doing this seriously, and I've got to find serious work. And I never thought I could work seriously as a hypnotist. I've tried to open a restaurant. I've had all these other jobs, and I thought it would cost too much money. It would be too difficult to get clients, and just all of those negative thoughts, feelings, and beliefs had not yet been transformed into, well, what I have now. So I just, go ahead, Matthew.
No, I'm listening. It's great.
Okay.
So my next question, though,
Yes.
just kind of leading with this is, what led you to our hypnotherapy training? You have the background in hypnosis, but at some point you decided, I hear you're talking about like wanting to have a career, and reading a script from a book isn't obviously enough to have a career. Yeah, no, please keep going. And then I want to hear how it transitions into our school.
Well, so that's the thing is I'd watch a video on it. I have a friend who his father was one of your early students, and he went to stage hypnosis. They both have the same name, John Hall. And he's just like an encyclopedia of hypnotic knowledge. So, he would point me at things. I've seen different things, but the bottom line is that I kept using elements of hypnosis in my other jobs. As a nurse, I was great with delirium tremens patients, people who have alcohol withdrawal. You can't drop a pin around them without them flinching and really having a bad time. And I found that if I would calm myself down and I would kind of ritualize my actions, which was not dissimilar to the hypnotic process to me, even though I'm obviously not putting them in a trance or doing anything, I could still calm them down. The same with patients who, dementia patients, which again, they forget who you are. And the only way they really remember is by you repeating things, by you being very careful about what you say and kind of framing what you do when you say in a certain way, that over time you create that relationship. So a lot of, another nurse wouldn't want to take this client even when I was a student. They may not want to take the client. I'd be more than happy to. Pretty much every job I've had, sales, hawking car wax at gas stations, or, security, or working at a hotel and project management, all of it, there was some element of hypnosis that would always kind of leak in. So here I was, and we're in the COVID era, and I have, enough money where I can do something else with myself. And yes, I'm a nurse and I could go work as an RN. And I'm like, this is not the best time to work as an RN. I guess it is, but in a way, everybody seems to be getting COVID, and there's something about it. I love working as an RN, but I don't like working with the insurance companies, all this other stuff. I just started calling people. I started calling other professional hypnotists in the area, successful ones. And nobody called me back except for one. Her name was Renee Brent. And she set up an appointment with me, and she gave me 15 minutes of her time, even though I wasn't a potential client. I was saying, look, I don't know who to talk to. I want to be a professional hypnotist, a professional hypnotherapist. I want to help people. And I know there's a school, and you can tell me whatever you want about your school or whatever. I'm open, but whatever I do, I just want to do this, and I want to talk to somebody who knows. And she's like, well, look, there is the school, but I'm going to talk to you straight because Renee, and she really was helpful in such a way that she did explain, things about the school, but really just gave me some good pointers on what I can do to educate myself and to become a hypnotherapist and what it's like for her. And so I did end up choosing, interpersonal hypnotherapy as how I would want to do it. I again went to your website and read a lot there, watched the videos. Again, Renee was a big help because her approach wasn't like, it's this or the highway. She's like, this is just very qualified. It's not run of the mill. Same with my friend John Hall. He said, my dad trained with Matthew Brownstein, and it's just it's such a official, it's a kind of system there. It's not, run of the mill. It's not piecework. It's a full coursework where you'll actually learn everything you need. And, with all of these influences that I could agree with telling me to, that was a direction to go. That's why I ended up choosing your school, choosing the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your journey. It's nice to hear names from the past. John Hall was a graduate of our second class. We're at like 55 or something classes now. And that was all the way back in the second. Nice to hear that. Yeah, Renee is the director, of course, of our Orlando location. And it's great that she helped to get you into it. So yeah, I appreciate hearing those positive qualities about our school, right? What we bring to the table. I know a lot of what we bring to the table that you and I share in common is a spiritual side, right? That it's not just about the hypnosis or the hypnotherapy. It's why we do it, because there's something deeper behind it. So I wonder if you'd like to share with listeners about what your spiritual background is, the shorter version of it, right? Because there's a lot there, I'm sure.
Right.
But how spirituality relates to hypnotherapy.
Well, so, I have two sides of my family, one very religious and like the kind of traditional Christian, one much more, as we would say, woo. And so I learned meditation and spiritual practices at a relatively early age. It was almost a disadvantage because all these things are so familiar, but I also that kind of dismissal that a kid has, of anything. So if something even strange and inexplicable happened in my life, it made sense to me because, it was part of my family that believed that kind of thing. But at the same time, it still wasn't profound, and it certainly didn't lead me on any kind of, major path. And so I learned meditation. I saw some strange things, maybe I'd have a dream, and then the next day it seems like that dream's happening. There was a point where I worked at an ice cream shop, and the guy died. And then I saw him that night after he had died, the manager. He was somewhere else, and then there he was. And I couldn't really explain that. Mm-hmm. But the guy that really got me started on this, his name is Christopher Timms. And without going into a lot of it, what he said is, he said, seek first the kingdom of God. And I had never fully accepted Christianity, and I still have kind of my own path. But what it meant to me, and the way he explained it as well, is he talked a lot like you do, Matthew, and a lot of people talk about oneness and light. How if you set yourself upon a spiritual path, the other pieces will fall into place. And so maybe for that meeting, for half of the presentation that he did, I was like really in tune with it. And then of course you get to drive home and you go to your house, and then you play a video game or you watch TV, and then you're back in the mundane world. And I'd study stuff after that, but I wasn't on a path, I just said I dabbled a little more. It made me dabble a little more. It actually, what really got me on fully on a spiritual path was the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. When I went in there, I'm like, well, I've been hypnotizing people since I was 14. I really just need the paperwork. I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna zonk them out. There's gonna be some hypnotic programming. They'll do what I say. When they wake up, everything will be fixed. And then of course I go there, and it's 500 hours of coursework. And among that, not only are much deeper practices and techniques that greatly improved, the framework that I had and really transformed it, but also a lot of spiritual guidance. and the kind of spiritual guidance that, is still principles that I'm applying here at the Dayvin Center today. Specifically, the idea that, we have this oneness, we have this thing we can tap into. We can tap into it quickly too. There's a lot of tendency in more traditional practices to say, hey, you've got to walk this path. You got about 20 years down this path, and and it's going to be hard steps the whole way through. You're going to have to, do something that's just going to be rough, really rough. We'll get you through it, and then one day maybe you'll feel something or know something. And what I learned in interpersonal hypnotherapy is, yeah, there is years of work to do, but that work can start in a moment. It can start just like that. You can tap into that love and light almost immediately. And it really changed my paradigm.
Thank you for sharing that, and humbly sharing the side of, well, I know how to put somebody in hypnosis, therefore I just need the paperwork. And then you realize, wait, 500 hours of training. I like to say, you just don't know what you don't know until you know it. And yeah, we'll have people like, well, I'm already a hypnotist. And we'll say, well, how many hours of training do you have? Well, I read a book. That doesn't make you a career professional, right? So I appreciate that side of it, but also the spiritual side of it, like we're talking about, and acknowledging this training helped you to enhance your spirituality that much more. The one thing that really stuck out as you were talking that I'd like us to go deeper into is the seek ye first the kingdom idea.
Yes.
So what does that mean to you? Why is that such an important teaching? And like, how does hypnotherapy help us to tap into that?
Well, so first of all, of course, I don't know how much time I had spent doing hypnosis and not experiencing it. The only time I ever experienced hypnosis before was completely on accident, is that on a lark, I had recorded a tape of myself doing an induction. I didn't even include at the end a suggestion to remember anything. And then I played it for myself and I said, hey, let's see what happens. And then I woke back up. I didn't even listen back to it to see what I had suggested. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I can do it, but nobody else has done that for me, so forget it. And that was one of the things, is the only way you can really, learn hypnosis is you're experiencing it, you're doing it for other people. I had the pleasure of working with Courtney Coleman and Matthew Langford with Renee over in her Maitland office, Renee's Maitland office. And so I got to experience hypnosis personally. I got to do it repeatedly and with other people who are professionals who are interested in what we're doing. And in that, I started experiencing that deeper state. And I started learning some of the spiritual teachings that we learn in hypnosis, or in a hypnotherapy, in interpersonal hypnotherapy. And it kind of re-sparked that original message that I had heard. And also, there are concepts from A Course in Miracles. I'm presently on day 147. I know we're supposed to start at the beginning of the year. Frankly, I'm just glad I convinced myself to start it, but I learned that starting in interpersonal hypnotherapy, and I found that I was spiritually transforming, just learning some of these basic lessons and how I could help other people and some of the basic spiritual principles. And then when I visited, A Course in Miracles, I found it was just so transformative to actually have that daily practice, which is what it was all about. It's really what I've heard since I was a kid: meditate every day, practice loving every day. And I finally started doing it. And that's the only way I would have started doing that to this extent. I really think the only reason that I'm here, even in the general context of a holistic center, let alone, being a hypnotherapist, is because of the IAIH.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, so experiencing hypnosis yourself, realizing you didn't even know how deep the rabbit hole goes from your own subjective experience, right? Or just basic things like put into your hypnotic programming, you remember the entire experience when you come out of it. I can hear there was a lot more to learn, a lot more to experience, and then realizing like there's a core of what we do that's based on the kingdom, based on love, light, peace, joy. So you've since opened the Dayvin Center, Holistic Health Center. What's the vision there in relationship maybe to what we're talking about, or just generally, what's the vision?
Well, basically my two partners just let me loose in this place. And there was a lot of things that I was doing. I had already written, I used the life mastery, that one of the things that we learn in interpersonal hypnotherapy, is to be able to, kind of put all of your dreams into this book and future pace that up, about 10 years, and then cut that in half and cut it in half again. And however big your goal is, suddenly becomes a lot more smaller and practical. And I really envisioned, once especially I spoke with my partners about possibly working with them, I envisioned I'd have an office, and then we would have this larger center, and I would have all this video equipment that we would use to kind of bring a lot of people who are in holistic practices, spiritual practices, into the 21st century. My mother had worked at a place here, and it was fine. It was just fine what they were doing, but they were still, they had their basic ideas. A lot of people, their websites aren't updated. They don't, when they do their videos, they do great videos. They're very personable. They're very presentable people, but they're just in a garden or a little room, or they put a little statue in the back or whatever, and it works for them. They can still do what they do, but it's not what people in other markets are doing. People who are selling other types of products are doing. And so I thought maybe we could have kind of a way to bring them into that same kind of, the marketing techniques, the fact that people, doing live videos and webinars, show them how that stuff can work, show them how it's automated, and kind of help to integrate them into the modern age, where they still get to go out and do what they really want to do, which is their own practice, their own way of serving others. And so that way they don't have to have all that stress where I'm going to spend the next, month learning about SEO and then hope nothing changes. I'm going to, especially with the professional video equipment, it takes a lot more work to set this up, to have multiple cameras, and to actually set up things like even lighting a green screen. That was, I thought I knew what I'd have to get into, and that's days just to get this thing to work. But, now they can come in, and what we offer them is pretty much anybody can come in, and anybody actually could email me. They can do it remotely if they're in the area. They can come in here. There's no other, requirement or offering there. We're not going to, harass them for the rest of the things that we can do. If we can be of service, that's fine. But we give everybody about 3 to 5 minutes to promote an area in spirituality, modality, or a way of, like say Reiki. That's what Neil does. So he's already got a video that he's made for that. We have people who do energy work. We have people who do acupuncture and, yoga and other practices, even in hypnosis. I'm doing the main hypnosis video, but how many different techniques, modalities, concepts, the fact that hypnosis can integrate with spirituality. There's somebody out there right now that's helping people with autism to acclimate in social situations using hypnosis. There's so many uses for it that we could really just talk all day, meditation. So we basically have somebody come in and talk about what they do. They get a chance to promote, and then we put that up on YouTube and on our social media. And now they've got their name out there. They've got all their contact information. And instead of us trolling for likes on Facebook and on YouTube, or using some of these other marketing techniques, which are, they're honest, I guess, in their own way, but, it's okay to have your friends and family like your page. That's okay. But it's a lot better if I'm providing a service to all these people, and then they have a reason to like us and we have a reason to like them. That's organic, that's of service. I know I've given, and if I receive, it's only because I am in a state of giving. So everybody gets the 5 minutes, and then if they have extra time, we'll interview. And then the interview is a series of spiritual questions that they can just talk about their beliefs and what they, what their spiritual path is, what they do, and, what they don't believe in. And generally our policy, as long as it's love, as long as there's compassion and understanding for others, then, you can say your piece. And again, that all goes up. And what all of that is also material for us to do our own coursework. And some of the people, we've already got about 2 or 3 people who are very interested in providing us with enough material, if not recording right here in front of the green screen, to teach about what they do or teach how to do something of what they do. Reiki has multiple levels, other energy workers, even each energy worker that, has their own very unique approach, and all of them have some new wisdom that they can bring. So if we bring them all together in one place, then people will want to go there. And that's kind of our business model is, again, we've given, we are promoting. Everybody's coming in as this chance to be promoted. And then now, if, we're making money as a business, we're doing it to keep our doors open. And, I have the side benefit of it's all, my hypnotherapy office is here. So it's a very good way organically to get clients.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It sounds like you are highly invested in helping others to succeed, to give away as much as you can, to create
Yes.
community, to bring people together, to create more leaders. And practically, I'm hearing that perhaps some of our students or graduates might utilize your services where they could have a relatively short, like 3 to 5 minute video professionally made, where they're presenting their practice, encouraged to bring in spiritual themes, and that's going to help them with their business as far as SEO or social media presence, just have a very high quality video that's helping to promote them. How would they
That's
go about
exactly
looking
right.
into that? Want to give us your contact info? How do we contact you if
Yes.
we want to?
So, dray Josiah is the name for me as a hypnotherapist, and right now I kind of am the Dayvin Center. I have two great partners. I'm the one that gets locked in the building every day. So what we're doing is, as we develop the Dayvin Center for a grand opening in January, we want to go ahead and get that background, that backbone of the business built. And that's those videos is how we're starting. You get a hold of me. I'm Dray J, DRAYJ. DRayJ.com is my website as a hypnotherapist. DRayJ at DRayJ.com is how you get a hold of me. And anyone is welcome to email me, and we can work something out. And like I said, those two things that I just talked about, there's nothing else attached to that offer. It's a principle that I learned in interpersonal hypnotherapy, and it's kind of blossomed into this principle that I found that as I do this, I'm getting really good responses, and this whole thing is blossoming and becoming something so much bigger than even I imagined. So anybody that's listening to this podcast can absolutely contact me. You can find me again through my website, drayj.com, drayj.com, or you can email me, drayj at drayj.com, or dray at Dayvin Center, but really it's all me.
Okay, we'll find you somehow by Googling those
Yes.
terms or whatnot. Awesome. And I'm sure we can put links in the description when our team gets this up and running. So I was looking at your website. I noticed there's a meditation component to what you do.
Yes.
So yeah, can talk to us about that. Been a long-term meditator. It's one of my passions. I spend hours a day, on a meditation cushion. So yeah, tell me, what is your approach to that and why is it so important?
Well, so again, a lot of this stuff I was introduced as a child, to these concepts, and again, children, they're surrounded by distractions, and so things like fast food and television and toys and games, were just more appealing than meditation. And even though I could actually enter into a relatively deep state relatively quickly, I didn't do it. I was just a kid, being a kid. And being a teenager, I would do it occasionally, and I still just wasn't doing it. And so in my 20s, one of the things, again, I was just kind of dabbling in these different topics, is I read a book by Ming Dao called 365 Tao. And it's just a book, it's a daily devotion on Taoism. And one of the things he talked about was these little moments of quiet, little moments. And it was so different than what I had kind of learned and what I kind of it wasn't even necessarily that it was communicated to me, it's just what I would see is that, it looked like meditation. You would have to go sit in a dark room for 3 hours, and that's meditation. I don't got any time for that. I got to go to work. I got to go play a game. I got to do something that's not sitting in a room alone, being quiet for 3 hours. And Dang Ming Dao suggested you can just steal these little moments anytime. You could do it right now. People listening to me can hear gaps in the words that we are speaking, and in every one of those gaps, you have that silence. If you are in the moment, even as I am talking, you can kind of let that flow, and you will start to enter into that state. And you have a very powerful technique where we look up and in, and we get into that place, and preferably that we stay there. And it's this whole idea of, I think you talked a lot about this in Zen. Something that happened to me, and actually one of the reasons why that meditation you're talking about is up there, is, you sent me this email out of the blue. I'd been manifesting and figuring out, how am I gonna get more clients? And within 3 days of me, like, I'd done it off and on, and within 3 days of me, like, I'm gonna manifest every day, I got an email from you. And then I'm like, oh, and I'm like, I listened to the podcast a little bit, but let me get familiar with it. And then I kept listening, because we covered it in the school, but you need to listen to some things a couple of times over, including the coursework from the school. It's very, there's a lot of information, very dense. And also, kind of like in martial arts, I found, the thing that you heard the first day, like 10 years later, you'll hear that again, and suddenly there's all of this other knowledge connected to it. So you have a whole review there on how to start a hypnosis business. You go into even more depth in your school, but nonetheless, it reawoken that. And I said, oh yeah, I'm not doing all of this stuff. Yeah. So immediately I got my Google ads going, and I knew there were these other kind of more organic methods. We can afford to keep the doors open here. We can't afford, until we have our grand opening, to say put up billboards, anything like that. So it's more organic, and you're not quite guerrilla tactics, I'd say, but maybe kind of middle ground until we're fully running. So the bottom line is, I guess, is that reviewing that really turned me on to this, and told me that the meditation that I learned, that trick that I learned from you, the trick I learned from Dang Ming Dao, I could apply these concepts, and what I could do specifically, and this is for the hypnotist listening, really anybody in any especially holistic business, anything that uses your voice or video, or any way that you can present yourself. And I credit this to Jason Lynette, who does a lot of hypnotic business stuff, is that you take a business card sized piece of paper, you get it printed. I've got a really nice logo on one side, and when I put on the other side, it'll have my info, but it'll say, for a free hypnosis audio, go to my website, learn the dray moment. And so I have offers of all things, from a dispensary locally that'll hold my cards, and then some of these other local businesses will, and then other people, they'll either be an exchange, or just other people will take those as well. We're surrounded by doctors' offices here, so I right there on my website, I'm really trying to appeal to medical professionals, and everything that you see on there, that's my objective, is in this next month, is to replace all those little spots with video, kind of like my primary video. But that's the bottom line, is that all of that is leading people to the website. They get the free download, they get the free audio, they watch the video and learn something from that. Now they've interacted, they've gotten something, they've received. And so if we're meant to work together, they know a little bit more about me, they have a method that they can follow, and now they're more invested to actually try me out, instead of moving on just because, oh, that's a nice website, what's this guy's, what's that gal's,
Yeah. I like how I'm listening to your mind, the way you process information, the way you answer questions. You never seem to deviate from also the business mindset, which I'm acknowledging, I'm appreciating and commending you on, because in our field, we can ask you a question about meditation, and you talk about meditation, but you also talk about getting the word out there. It always seems to be for you realizing, okay, I've got this idea of being, what was it, the D-Ray Josiah moment, right? Like, you've got these ideas, you can teach people to get into the zone, but if you don't put the message out there, nobody really knows about it. So it almost seems like for you got to a place. I was on a podcast yesterday, we're talking about, like, who are you going to be when you grow up spiritually? And it's not just, okay, I can sit in 3 hours in the dark and meditate by myself, now I'm spiritual. It's like, well, that's remarkably selfish, right? When you answer the question about meditation, you're encouraging people, okay, you can be in the moment. You can take those moments just to listen to the space between the words, like, be right here now. And then this is how I'm getting that message out there. So, I appreciate hearing that it's not just about you. Your spirituality always seems to be around other people, which shows that you've gone somewhere on the path, right? It's not just a selfish endeavor.
Well, thank you. That's very nice to hear. Yes, I feel that way. What happens to me is if I put in 80 hours here at the Dayvin Center, I've worked other jobs like that, and those jobs I'd leave home burned. I'd leave home and come home burned out. Here, I feel great. I'm energized all day. I even get home and I'll still like mow the lawn or take out the trash or do something because I'm still pumped. I just feel good. I feel like this is an actual integration of business and of my spirituality. Just because I've got to eat, I've got the things that I want. The list of things that I wanted when I was successful keeps shrinking because I'm kind of already there. I just really want it to be sustainable. That's really why there's even a business aspect at this point.
Sure. Yet the way to make it sustainable is keeping of service to other people. Like, what is one of the
Yes.
secrets to being wealthy is find a need and fill it. And there's so many people out
Yes.
there who need hypnotherapy. They need to open their hearts and clear their emotional blocks. They need meditation to know how to be in the moment. They need to be reminded, like you were getting these reminders, like, well, I know hypnosis, I know meditation, but then, going through this training, I hear that it helped you to realize kind of practice what I've been, I don't want to say preaching, but what I know, right? Like there's
Yes.
knowledge and there's wisdom, and wisdom is just to really utilize what you know. So on the notion of wisdom, if you could broadcast one message to the whole world, one thing, like the one key piece of knowledge that's most important to you that you've learned over the years, what would be that one message?
It can really seem like there are all of these other messages, but the message really is to love yourself and love other people. And it seems like it's like something you would see in the back of a Hallmark card, but it's so true. And the beginning of that spiritual path can seem like there are all of these things in the way. You clear those blockages and you move forward, you will find you are heading to that love, and that seems to dissolve all of that other negative stuff, all those other struggles. They just clear out of the way. It's amazing when your life lines up. Truly, seek first the kingdom of God, seek first this path, and things just start working.
That sounds like real wisdom. Say, what is the highest? And you go right to love. Like the great poet Hafiz, he said, the subject tonight is love. In fact, that should be the subject every night. Why should we talk about anything else? And like, you brought up A Course in Miracles, which I'm glad you did. And, the course begins saying this is a course on love. It's a required course. Like eventually we're all going to have to return to love anyway. So the reminder, like seek the kingdom, meaning like, find love, find that one truth. And so thank you for being out there in the world, having gone through this training and creating ways to help to empower people with videos and to work with your colleagues to grow something beautiful. And it's nice to hear that it's just the tip of the iceberg for your big vision, because you used our life mastery course and you're working backwards. So this is just the small part of what we're eventually going to see. So thank you so much for joining me here. I certainly hope anybody who's listening can reach out to you to have a session, create a video, maybe be part of your vision. And yeah, we can keep collaborating too, because I'm sure a lot of our staff, people that we work with, can benefit from working with you. So we'll keep an open door there.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Take care.